So what happens if you can't get an interview by using the method of going to the manager that's hiring, the team leader that's leading the team, or the recruitment or HR business partner by going quite overt and going around the application process direct to the source. And that means understanding how companies currently advertise their positions to the wider market. What they do internally is generally every time they advertise a position, they'll make a decision to go internally or externally. Nearly every time they'll go internally for, say, 2 to 3 weeks before they go externally. That might just be, they might never have the intention of hiring internally, but it's more so of a goodwill process to make sure people that are currently maybe working under that position have the opportunity to apply. And they might already know they need to go internally. So recruiting teams will have a list of steps they need to go through before they put it out. The first step is advertising externally. If they can't fill it, the second step is an external recruitment agency. And I'll talk about these two in two different things. So what they do is put on their online job board. So their company page. And without a doubt, if you want to work at an organization, go to the company page first. Don't go to the Seeks. Don't go to the wider job boards, the Monsters, the Indeeds. Go to the company page. And if you do see the job ad on the Seek, go to the company page. And the best thing to look at is if they don't have anything on their website, go to their LinkedIn. You'll find that most of their jobs are connected directly to a recruiter there. So what does that mean? Company page, LinkedIn, and then the wider job platforms. When applying for the job, you don't think that you need 100% of what they're saying. Most of the time, they're trying to replace the person that left, and their years of experience, which is the first common fault, which people will miss. People think they're not suitable because they have enough years of experience. It's incorrect. The job board, job ad, and what it lists out is experience, education, preferred, and required. As long as you have the required, and you see through there, like there might be 3 or 4 things that stick out, they might say them twice, apply. What you should be really looking for is if you like the position, you like where the location is, and after clicking on it, you know that you like the company. Then build the application and apply. Don't just apply for heaps. The second part is if you don't tailor either your CV or your LinkedIn or your cover letter to it, you're probably not going to get a hit about the ATS, so don't forget that. Feel free to look for the recruiter and send it at the same time and hit them on both pages. If the company can't fill it based off external job ads, they then get escalated to recruitment agencies. Recruitment agencies include permanent recruitment agencies, so large scale like Randstad, Hayes, Hudson, smaller boutique firms. As a veteran, you generally won't have a boutique recruitment agency. We're probably the only sort of veteran recruitment agency in the market that can train you, but most of the time you're not really specialized yet, so you'll look for the bigger companies and the bigger jobs. So then the next thing is to go, you'll see on the job ads, you'll see one of the biggest issues is that you might see the same job 8 times and all of the recruitment agencies are advertising the same job. Well, what happens is when someone advertises they can't fill the job ad, they'll then put it out to their recruitment agencies, they'll then all release the same job ad. So what you need to do is be a bit of a Selby snoop and figure out which company it is and apply direct to the company. If it's just the one recruiter advertising it, that means they're exclusive, so you'll have a really good chance of applying through that and reaching out to the recruiter. But if there's a lot of recruiters advertising it, then the same job, then try your hardest to find out where it is, because the amount of breakthrough you have will be minimal.
Just to stop you there, I've done that before, and I've got a job description and I've just Control-C to part of the job description, put it in Google, and been able to find that position description, that role description on the website of a company, and then apply to the company, which is far more engaging and puts you at an advantage than if you're going through a recruitment organization.
And how do you know? Geographic location, day posted. they're all posted within the same day of each other, and they'll all have the same job description. So what does that mean? Online job boards, go direct to the company first. If you can, identify what you like out of the organization. You don't need 100% of things. Try, say, a 60 to 80% fit. Like the place where you work, like where it is and the job that you're doing, and apply. If it's you use a recruitment agency, understand that recruiters are paid a fee to get you in. If they're exclusive, so you only find that one job ad or there's one LinkedIn guy posting it, you'll find that if you're the right candidate, you'll move very quick. If it's not exclusive, probably not apply for it online. Try to find out who the recruiter is and give the recruiter a call. So that's, I'd say, the first bit of the process. And easy ways to get around it. This is all overcome, though, by going direct to the people who are hiring internally in a business and networking your way with the person that's looking for the job. Hence the validation network. The second part of the process is, let's say you're selected for an interview. What might happen first is a phone interview. A phone interview or a Skype interview is quite hard. Some companies have 2 steps. Some companies like Amazon can have 12. Why? Organizations are very, very particular at getting the right people in. So you might go through 12 interviews, but the good thing to note is that you might do 8 on one day. So they'll lock it all down on one day to quick it through. So when you talk about a phone interview, treat it as if you're going in. Best part about it, it's like a dress rehearsal. You can have all your points written down on what you think they're going to ask, and you'll find in our interview question system, and it's all more so about what skills do you have and the type of person you are. And it's very, very basic. And what will then happen next, and how do you get past it, is that if you study general interview questions and you write the points in reflection to the job ad and what you can provide to that specific job, you'll find that there's no issue. Always end a phone interview assuming that you have the next steps, and you ask them for the next steps, and then you sort of want to push it on them. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. I always write down, this is the job I'm going to do. Here's the 3 key points I'm trying to get across with a phone interview, because remember, I'm not there, so I'm not going to see myself. I'm quite animated, I'm quite passionate, so I need to have to do that. And more importantly, don't over-thesaurus yourself. Be very genuine and down to earth. And finally, try not to be monotonal. Like, really have a look at how your phone voice works. And if you really rather do a Skype, see if you can do it. That's phone. The next step is like aptitude screening or testing. Most organizations will do this. And that's because most companies probably have a digital profile of your aptitude. So really how quick you can learn a skill. And how you can be proficient in it. Intellect, really critical thinking, and how you can solve problems. Psychometrics, so the type of personality you are, and really looking at your soft skills and what you're suited to. And finally, cultural fit. So if you fit within the teams that are hiring. Now, don't ever get upset about the testing process. You might not get any results. So you might never get a result. That's fine. There's not really any feedback on it though. This is quite a scientific process. Don't game the test. Just do the test as if it's for you. Otherwise, you'll probably find you'll end up in a job that you don't want to be in.
Or that you're not a good fit for, or that you're not going to find enjoyable, or
so don't game it.
Not going to be good for you, not going to be good for the organisation.
Don't game it. Just do your best. Aptitude tests are also really hard generally. So you'll find that the first 60% of questions are, going pretty hard. The last sort of, say you've got 6 questions and the last sort of 2 are almost impossible. They're looking for geniuses for the last 2 out of 6. So there's probably no chance of anyone solving them. So don't shoot yourself down against that. The next step after that is probably a face-to-face interview if they're large with the recruitment team, and then face-to-face interview with the team leader, then a face-to-face interview with the team leader's boss, and then whoever the decision maker is if it isn't the team leader's boss. If it's a technical role, they will have a technical sort of interview, so you're understanding. But if you're to the point where you're past the HR interview, it's more so about, do they want me to work in their team? And can they see me fit within the organization and grow within the organization? So those last 2 interviews, maybe with the hiring sort of manager and the team leader, as well as their boss, should be more so about how their process works, how their company works, what sort of team it is, and they're all sort of the questions that you should ask. What you need to get across are the same things you get across at the start. What are your 3 key selling propositions? How do I be remembered and how can I get their attention? And why I want to learn in that organization. And if you apply the same process again of that job ad against those generic questions that you find in our compass, and then testing it, and then getting your personal story across, as well as your sales position, as well as what you care about and the sort of people that you like to work for, that whole approach is a lot more professional and is a lot, I think it's a lot less intimidating, where most people think it's a be-all and end-all at each step. If you're done aptitude and done the HR, the hardest people in the organization already want you to work there. You've just got to convince the people that you're going to be living with and bunking with that you're an asset and that they want to work with you directly. So like I said, it's a good bloke, good chick test again. And the second point of it is, can they deliver? And if you can get across those 2 things, it's understanding about, in the interview very, very quickly, what do they want me to deliver? And 2, what sort of person am I working with? And then that last one is really, how much information can I get out of them before I make my final decision? What's the pay like? Before you ask that, what's the progression like? What skills can I learn? What projects can I work on? And, how does the team work? Those are the sort of things that you should ask.
Yeah, it's a really good point that you made right at the end there. I think that it's really important that you're also analysing the organisation and engaging the suitability of the organisation.
You're interviewing them.
Absolutely right. I mean, they're fundamentally the whole reason that the organisation is carrying out an interview. Exactly right. They're carrying out an interview to assess you, but you want to be assessing them on the same token. And I think a lot of people get a lot of anxiety around different interviewing processes and that sort of stuff. And I find one of the best tips that I can provide veterans when I'm talking to them on the phone, preparing them for interviews, is that there's some pretty standard questions that you can almost guarantee people are going to interview, who are interviewing are going to ask. Things like, tell me about yourself, is a really good icebreaker. Your strengths, your weaknesses. Now, you want to be dynamic. You want to be making sure that you're having an open dialogue. You don't want to keep it too cagey. But by the same token, you can have answers to these questions already in your mind. So by the time those questions are being asked, you've already got solid answers that you can deliver. So it removes the anxiety around being put under the pump. You can then deliver those answers quite effectively and with a reasonable amount of confidence that you're saying the right things. And that sort of keeps your brain 10 to 15 seconds ahead of your mouth, which is really important to provide you confidence and just be empowered during the interview process.
And something that's sort of taken off in the last 2 years is something called candid experience. So companies want to get better at the candidate experience. So that means ensuring you have a good recruiting and onboarding process. And even if they don't hire you, walk away satisfied because you might recommend that company to someone else. And that's how granular they're going to find the right talent. And if you really want to know how an interview process works, go on glassdoor.com. And I think Seek's about to launch a similar thing. And you'll have a whole bunch of people telling you about it. But don't just take one person's word for it who might have had a bad interview. Go through it all, correlate the data, look at the sort of questions, and you'll find everything from salary type and all these other things. So when you get in there, you're really just focusing on, well, if all that's standard, then what don't I know and what's the unknown? So therefore, I'll ask those questions in an interview because no one's probably asked them before, and I'll probably be memorable.
That's exactly right. Talk about being memorable. That's how you do it. Ask the questions that nobody else has asked and just be the point of difference.
And, I'm always myself. So I do not answer interview questions in the STAR method. I don't answer them in any sort of method. I just speak frankly, openly, after I've had a thought, or after I think about what they've asked me, and then I'm not afraid to ask the same question back when I'm finished talking. That can throw people off, but it works.
I think that's a really good point.
The next step is probably, it's a very different process to someone leaving the military. The only time they've had it happen is when they've enlisted, when they've been given a letter of offer, which is, I've got my letter of offer, I've got a start date, and I've got a salary and a structure. So the first thing I'll talk about is start date. So one of the big stresses we see people coming out of the military is, I've got to try to get a job before I get out, but I don't want to put my discharge paperwork in. I want to do all of these things, and I feel like I can't accept it, or I can't accept that time, or I'm worried about telling the employer that I can't start within that time. And we'll address that first. And then the second bit, I'll talk about negotiation and the things you can do that really, really help you identify what you're worth. So, and how you get which one out of it. So the first point is expectation management. There's going to be some jobs that are urgent fills and some that aren't. And you can find that out by either looking at the job ad and sort of seeing the words and the urgency of the words, or asking the recruiter in the telephone interview what it is. And if you impress them and you open with them and you tell them, look, I'm in the military, is it a volume position, so you're always hiring, then it's not going to matter. But if it's an urgent position and you haven't submitted your discharge and you're unsure of what you want to do, tell them up front and don't dick them around. That's the first point. That'll remove all the stress when you get to the other end and they're offering you a job and want you to start in 4 weeks. And generally they want you to start within 4 to 6. The average notice for military is 12. Now, one of the first points is if you can get to 10 years in the military, get long service leave, this is a really, really good way of getting around it. So, rather than, let's say you've done 10 years, get your long service leave, go through the job process, and I'd say if anyone's an NCO or an officer approaching 10 years, get there, don't just leave. You then got a 3-month buffer. So you can go, all right, it takes 12 weeks to get out. I could take my long service leave, probably got another 3 months of annual. I've probably got 6 months to play with where I can accept a job, be out there working, get the approval to do voluntary work outside of defence with no conflict of interest, so anything outside of defence industry, and then all of a sudden I'm working within a 2 to 3 week tick, take a holiday for yourself, always need one at the end of defence, and then you're around that whole issue. So think strategically, plan transition longer than 12 weeks. If you can get to 10 years and get long service, really, really helps with this process, especially for large companies. When you're applying don't apply for an urgent position. If you do figure out it's urgent, tell them in the process that you're not ready for it. And more important, the last point is that if it's not an urgent position and they're always hiring for it, and you get the start date, and they're at this point they're very interested in having you on board. There's no sort of candidates to remove that. It takes a long while for a long wait for a company to pick it and draw down. Push back on it. I can't start until this, and this is why. And there's nothing wrong with saying that. Think about industry. They've got people jumping out of companies into others. Some of them have got big projects they've got to deliver. Some of them have got clauses where they can't work at certain businesses. This sort of stuff happens all the time. Being military is different, but it's not different to people that are normally negotiating a start date. The difference is generally within 4 to 6 weeks. Yours is going to be within 6 to 12, and you can get around it by smart long service leave planning and rolling out. And you can also get around it by using CTAs in your work experience days. So think about it smart. Be upfront at the start. If it's urgent, don't apply for it though when you transition, unless you're already out or you know your discharge date. That's the first point. The other one is negotiation. All right, so what am I worth? Your base salary plus super, not including your service allowance. If you're looking for a minimum to start at, start there. So if I'm a infantry captain, 2 or 3 years, and my base is 75 to 80, do not count the service allowance on top of it. That's for all the extra things that you do where the Defence Force can make you work 24/7 and all those other things. So take that from your amount. That is like danger pay, that is overwork and overtime pay. In industry, 38 hours a week, even on a salary. Most people won't expect you to work over that unless you're in a startup. It's quite relentless.
Why do you look at me when you say
this? We know it, right? You only have to look at my crow's feet. I guess. So that's a good starting point. That's the minimum. So how do you negotiate? Right. When you get a letter of offer, they'll generally talk to you about how much you want over the phone first. Do the negotiation over the phone first. It's a lot harder for them to change a contract because it'll go to a Singapore contract team generally, Australia, and change it. So if you want to negotiate it, don't wait for the piece of paper and then push back. Generally by the time you've got the piece of paper, you already agreed on what the terms are. Okay, so what can we negotiate on? If you need flexible work, it's the time to bring it up. If there's anything you want to talk about, career advancement, education, you can put stuff like that in, and people don't really realize or ask for it. So think a bit creatively about that. And now let's look at sort of how the wages are built. So most of them are going to be salaries. I'll say that the industry's sort of going that way. That means you have a sort of annual rate paid off weekly, fortnightly, monthly. If you can get fortnightly, it is the way to live. Monthly is hard between beers. Weekly is too much. So you don't have enough capital to buy things that you want or cash. So always try to shoot for fortnightly. It's a nice in between. Smaller companies will always have monthly, so good luck trying to negotiate that. Larger companies should probably have fortnightly. And cash country companies like hospitality businesses will probably be weekly and shift work. So what does that mean? Well, the first thing you're going to have on there is the amount per hour or the amount per the payment schedule. And add it up, times it by 52 or whatever it is, 52 if it's weekly, and work out what your annual salary is. And it should be in there as well. Super is plus that generally, and there'll be a bonus plus that. So a bonus is generally 10 to 15 or 10 to 15% of your package. So it's probably super and your salary. And that's awarded off KPIs. So make sure you know what they are before you sign the agreement, and make sure they're not articulated. There also could be share incentives. In Australia, most of them are going to be under what we call an employee share option agreement, or as it's called ESOP. And that means that you won't really get issued shares because your capital gains would be ridiculous. You'll probably have to work there for an extended period of time, meet your KPIs, and then invest in shares. Finally, it'll tell you what type of role, like employment, that you're going to go into. Full-time, part-time, contract, casual. Full-time is an employee, all the benefits you'll find under like being a full-time employee, so health, leave, all that sort of stuff. There'll be a package that'll show you it all. There's a lot of it's a strong position to be in. What I would say to you is a lot of industries don't work that anyway, so don't try to push on it. You might then find yourself on a full-time contract. Most companies will do that, and don't be too afraid of it. It doesn't mean they're not going to keep you for a year. Have a look at what project you're working on, where you're working on, and why they're putting you on a contract. And the risk threshold is over 12 months, is fine. Then you've got part-time, so anything really under, I think it's really under 38, sort of below, so anything under a full-time week. And then finally got casual. And casual is probably the most dangerous, and I'd award you not to do it. What you might find, and it's not legal, is for an organization to make you a subcontractor and get you to create an ABN. If they've advertised the position as a job, they can not get you to create an ABN. It's illegal. If they've advertised it as a contractor expression of interest, and you've applied, then they can pretty much ask you to go through the process and do it. And if you do it, it's up to you. And that means setting up your insurances, everything else.
A lot of heartache though for somebody who's transitioning out of
Correct.
It's probably not an advantageous route to go down straight off the bat.
So, how do you negotiate money? Start at your base salary plus super and go up. Feel free to put 30% on top of it and start your negotiation there. And, first point, who speaks first loses. Get them to ask you if that's the package that you're looking for, which they will, and then tell them that you're looking at a larger range. When you say range, say range. Shows your ability to move. So let's say I'm making 100 grand a year, I put 20% on it, and I go, hey, I want to make between, I'm looking at 100, I'm really more happy with 130 to 120. That's a lot better than saying I just want 130, I just want 120. You're showing them that you're happy to move, and then always you go, yeah, look, I'm really excited to get here. This is why I need it. This is what I'm looking for. That's the first step. Now, what are the next few steps? The second step is, if that didn't work, you can go the scarcity route. And this is dangerous. So you can say that you're looking at other opportunities. A good way of doing it is say, let me review it and let me come back to you. I've got a number of things that we're looking at the moment. I'm very interested in this, but let me come back to you, review the contract, and I'll come back to you tomorrow. So you're not saying no. You're not making a decision right away. And most people are more than happy with that. And don't feel like you have to make a decision right away. Most employment contracts, getting a verbal decision over the phone, feel free to go away and tell me when you give them a call the next day. You've only got 24 to 72 hours to accept. A lot more if it's a slow burn position, and they're very keen on you. All right, let's say you come back then, and then you go through that process again. Tell them the range you want, and then shoot them. The final one is this. Let's say you can't get the money that you want, and they're just not budging. Look at their share schemes, look at their bonus schemes, look at the benefits within the company, look at the role progression. Yep. And go on Glassdoor and see how it all works, and it's probably there. Yep. If you've done your interview process, you'll know. So make sure you negotiate in the clauses of your contract, review of your salary within 6 to 12 months, based off a set of KPIs that they're distinguished, or a look at promotion to a number of areas, and get them to look at doing that, and then hold them accountable to it. That is the best sort of 3 ways that I know of negotiating to get a better outcome. Yeah. Remember, a bit of expectation. First job in the job market. You can really increase your salary if they think that you are in demand, scarce, and you're a brilliant person. How you do that, this is a good sum up point, is go around the job application process, build the network, speak to the hiring manager, speak to the recruiter, get front of mind, deliver a different interview process than everyone else. Be informed, be presentable, be attention grabbing. Don't be afraid to sell yourself. The military is important, but you've done a lot of stuff in the military that is exactly the same as the civilian world. And translate that and go into those interviews and treat it like a dating process and get as many decisions as you can. And at the end of it, you're going to hit a lot of walls. Be resilient, pick yourself up and try again. And when you do, don't do the same process again. Try one of our other steps. Try the networking thing.
Dip into the bag of tricks, try something different.
Correct.
But ultimately, you've got to be memorable and you've got to be perceived as really valuable.
Yeah.
So they want to engage you.
And time again, I've seen veterans go through this 10, 15, 20 times. Have no idea why they're not getting an interview, or having no idea, and just getting really frustrated. So by the time that they do get an interview, they're not themselves. So go through the Compass program, map out your network, build your intel, all the data that you can, pick the right job for you, leverage your career entitlements to get around that difficult when to start period. Be open and candid with clients, sell yourself in, and then when you negotiate, know what you're worth and have a minimum level. Feel free to tack a bit on, and then try to push scarcity if you get stuck, but then try to push other entitlements that you know that they have access to maneuver. Like a good team leader will know what they can do, and ask them, just go, what else can we do outside of salary? And if you play your cards right, you might take a 50 to 80 grand salary, but if you deliver in 6 months and you've got that in there and you've got that measurable outcome in there for them to make the business decision to do it, then you might jump up to 150 grand a year if you've done what you need to do. And the point I'll make is this. Australian managers are really, really bad at saying, hey, that person's performing. I'm going to go ask them if they want a promotion or a pay rise. It doesn't happen. Once you get in there, you've got to set your own conditions for success, and you have to ask for a pay rise. Why? A business is not going to pay out money if it doesn't need to. That is simply it, and is never pushed down. Definitely people should be rewarded, but most of them never had it happen to them. So don't expect it. If you can get it into your contract, negotiated, that review, and your KPIs, and then take charge of them when you start.